gender to be. Um, some of the things that came up was in regards to some mutual people that we know, and then like the watching seemingly a struggle that is happening within individuals, but also how they're moving through that together, and then how like I guess the distortion of what happens when you um, interject fear into like children in making these decisions, um, where they should naturally process these things and naturally decide on their own, right, without being guided by others in that instance. Like, I think that's where we kind of left off last time that I remember. I could be wrong though,
Yes.
but I'm pretty sure it's somewhere around
That
that
sounds right.
we left off. Hmm.
Yeah, that
And
sounds
then
right.
Lexi was like, "Oh, I have to go, but I really want to talk about this."
Yep, that sounds about right.
Mm-hmm. Right. So like, and I think also like the whole like box thing, I think was also part of it, that like you're like,
Oh yes,
I don't
the
want to
box.
fit in a box, but
Yeah.
I'm going to actually just fit myself into another box
Yes. Yep.
because that box feels better for me.
That
Hmm.
goes along with safety, right? And fear.
Hmm. Yes.
Right, because I think when you're in a box, you're more likely to be accepted or
Hmm.
find like another group of people to fit into because you fit into a box that, you know what I mean? Like, it's all categories.
I think it's because
Hmm.
we're trained that way. Like, we're trained to believe that that's how it works.
Right, because like, I mean,
Well, it's also how our brains work though too, evolutionarily speaking. Like we're like the way that our
Sure.
brains have evolved
That's a good point.
through time is to, pick out patterns or pick out behaviors, and like some things are desirable, some things aren't, but it's because the processing power, it's a lot easier and quicker to like just kind of identify a general group and then say good or bad and then move on. Like that's kind of how our brains work. So it's not just societarily kind of, is that a word? You know what I mean? It's not just society, it's also
right.
to like the actual biology and the makeup of the way that our brains are being molded and shaped throughout time to, good, bad, whatever.
And then that's decided by whatever influences we've had to tell us
Exactly.
what is like
What is and what isn't.
safe or
Yep.
not safe, or
Yeah.
good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That's the fucking thing.
Yeah.
What's the thing?
Good or bad.
What that like?
Yeah, why is
whatever
it a
group you fit
dichotomy?
into is good or bad.
Yeah, why is there a dichotomy? That's what really fucking, that's the thing. The runes, the motherfucking runes are already speaking.
That's it.
That's the thing about this Nordic.
That's why they wanted you to pick them up this week, so you could spit some truth for us this week.
Don't
Jingle them all.
I know.
around.
They're so good to play with. Like, it feels so good. I cannot describe to you. It's one of those like weird remembrance things where I just want to like rub them in my hands. It's also a very loud and distracting noise, so that's why they're up there.
Just ruining all day long.
Ronan does it too. Ronan and I will just like pick him up and like drop him slowly onto the floor. But the whole like, so there was like this discussion in the beginning of the book of Nordic spirituality overall, because in order to understand like the magical use of the runes, you have to kind of understand the spirituality, because this was like an everyday practice for everyone, and like magic, what we consider to be magic, was a common like everyday practice for everyone to be involved in. So all of this stuff was just like part of their society, but there was no like they have like this whole system of levels and nonsense like everybody else, right? I don't mean nonsense in a negative way. I just mean like there's this whole structure for how the worlds are, and an upper world and a middle world and a lower world, and yeah. But it wasn't so absolute. Like the gods kind of fucked shit up sometimes, and the giants who were at war with the gods sometimes we're doing the responsible and right thing and the gods were just being fuckboys. And so that was what the conflict was. It wasn't like the gods were superior and the giants were these shitheads. And they also worked together plenty of times when they needed to. And so there just wasn't this like dichotomy. Like, yes, there were like these varying groups of things, but it wasn't like good and bad. Like, there wasn't, because there was some of that in everyone. And then the dark and the night and the underworld were not like horrific. That's just where you went to get the wisdom. Like, that's how Odin lost his eye or gave up his eye, to receive the
For the
knowledge of the
runes, right?
runes.
Yep.
Was in the pool underneath the tree. And so, but that was like, so the darkness, the what is now often seen as like bad, was really like the depths of knowledge and wisdom. And so you would go there and you would retrieve knowledge and wisdom and then go on with your life. But it's like a part of life, which is like the whole cyclical nature, yada, yada, yada. But there wasn't this like dichotomy. And from the waters of hell are where the light comes from. Like, it's all a continuous circle, you know what I mean? Like, getting back to that same. And I think it's tough to get there in real life now, from where we are, based
Current
on how
life.
we've seen things. Right.
Yeah.
Because it's so dichotomized now. But
Mm-hmm.
I like that idea. And I really enjoyed reading about it last night. I'll say that. Because I don't think it really feels like that now.
Kind of more all or nothing, one or the other. If you have, especially now, I mean, I don't know if we want to get into all that shit, but especially now, if you show any signs that you're interested in opposite, it's, oh, you have to be that. And there's this huge push to, okay, that's the box you're in. But it's like, okay, well, what if I just have an interest in this other? Like, for me personally, I was the biggest tomboy when I was a kid. I never wanted to wear pink. I very rarely wanted to wear dresses. Like, when I was a little kid, I was fine, you know, was super feminine, no problem. But then when I started getting older, it was like, no, I'm like basically dressing in boys' clothes and I'm like playing outside and playing in the dirt and I don't want to do girly things. But it's like, I always think back to that time. If I was a kid right now, like going through the same experience, and I was a kid now in today's day and age, I probably would be pushed off into, okay, well, you must be a boy then. I just like to be rough and tumble. I just like to play sports and I like to be outside and stuff like that. That doesn't necessarily make me one or the other. Like this kind of all or nothing approach to, you have to be blah, blah, you know, that kind of idea.
Well, because
Mm-hmm.
it's completely individualized anyway. Like, the voice in your head telling you these things is you. I mean that universally, you, not like anyone specifically. Me.
Yeah. The collective you.
Like, right. And it can be something like that, like this polarizing view of gender, or it can be like the negative stories that you tell yourself all the time about yourself, or the judgments you pass on yourself, so you can't like fully express, because it doesn't, like, nothing about you means anything about you. Like, nothing, you know what I mean? Like, you can like to do whatever the fuck you want to do, and none of that is like this, like, good, bad, or otherwise. But that is so fucking hard to actually embody when in this culture that is so fucking like dualistic. You know what I mean? Like, it's like everything is polarizing all the time. Like, that's the only way we know how to look at stuff, I guess, or how we're taught to look at stuff, is the opposites.
Yep.
A division in everything.
Division in everything. Yeah.
It's
just
easier.
like fear, but it's yeah.
for when people want to control things, for there to be a division and a clear delineation between one or the other.
Yep.
'Cause
Yeah,
it's
because
hard
if
to
we're all
like the fear
control
separate, then
component
we're
comes
not the
in.
same. Exactly, yeah. And if we're all separate and we're different than each other and there's an us versus them, how easy is it to demonize the other side or tell people that they're wrong or, say that you have to fit within one or the other. And if you don't, there's something wrong with you.
You
right?
can't be like
Through fear.
one thing one day and one thing the next. I mean, you can, but you just get like a lot of, you get a lot of
but then
looks, you
it's
get a lot of
judgment.
questions, you get a lot of like,
Yep.
Right. If you evolve, then you're fake because you changed.
Exactly. Yeah, because you changed your opinion or you changed your mind or you said you were this before and now you're doing this. So obviously you don't even know what you're talking about. You get discredited, right? People say you have no idea what you're doing or what you're talking about. It's like, okay, all of us, it's just our own lived experience. So you're telling me all of us are exactly the same. You either fit in one or the other. Otherwise, you don't fit. Really? I don't know about that.
And because again, it's so individualized, like you're holding yourself to this like prison inside this prison. That's what I said to you today or yesterday sometime. I texted that to you. I remember saying that to you. But like, you're like, oh, I like this because I'm this way. And so like all of these things like tell a story about who you are. And so like your interests are selected on like what you want to like portray to the world instead of like what you actually like. And maybe there's some overlap or maybe you're more integrated than that and it's not that way.
Yeah.
But I think there's like parts of all of us that are like, we think are like wrong or like too much for other people to handle. You know what I mean? Like, oh, they like this much about me, but I probably pushed it too far this time with whatever thing. You know what I mean? Like, I think that, I don't know. I think I always did that. I still do that a lot.
I was just going to say that's literally my entire life thus far. Outside of, maybe the last 2 years or something. That's my entire existence has been that. Like, oh, well, you went a little too far on that one, buddy. Maybe rein it back. Like, rein it in, tone it down, bring it back. Yeah, that's a little too much. I mean, that has happened to me throughout my entire life, so I definitely know what you're talking about.
and then you just learn to not give a fuck what anybody says.
Yeah, basically. Because it really doesn't matter.
But is it?
It really doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, are they looking you in the mirror? No, you have to look yourself in the mirror.
For sure.
Do you like who you are? That's the whole point.
It's really hard though to not to like to still like
for sure
not give a fuck.
It took me 27 years to get to the point where I'm like, I don't care. Think what you want. I literally don't care. And I mean, like, honestly, like in the most sincere way possible. Like, I mean, we went to that concert on Wednesday, and normally I wouldn't be singing like during the concert or anything because I'm like self-conscious of the way that I sound. The entire concert, like, I don't know if you guys can tell, my voice is still kind of raw. I'm like, nope, the whole time. I'm screaming, I'm yelling, singing along, like the whole thing, because I'm like, I don't care, like, whatever. If people around me don't like it, like, sorry, I paid to be here too. I don't know, but like, like just not caring what people think, just kind of a immediate real life example kind of thing.
I think it's hard too to unpack all the different ways that it like impacts you, like that conditioning. You know what I mean?
What conditioning?
All of it. Well, just like the dichotomizing, or just like the like boxes, the conditioning of the boxes. Like when we talk about stuff, you know what I mean? Like when I start asking you like questions, like, but why though? But why? And you get annoyed at me. But because why?
Because society has told me why. That's why. I don't
Right.
know.
Right. But you
Mhm.
don't think about it. Ronan, honestly, is the one who helps the most with that.
Well, yeah, because he doesn't give a fuck. He's in his fucking he's in his unicorn boots and his leotard, and he is loving his fucking life.
Oh, I love
He's like
Steve. I want
he's
to
like
do
the
that right
perfect
now.
example of like, you know, like not caring. Like, yeah, I want the pink fucking Paw Patrol shoes. I don't want those blue ones. This pink is
Why
my
don't they make them an
color.
adult size?
Like, yeah. But it's like, I don't know. But like, I feel like that's like what I did is like I went from one box to another box, or I tried to, you know, because it makes that transition, especially when you're doing like something real fucking dramatic. When you're like,
makes it easier.
You know,
it's a little bit safer.
Cutting all your hair off and wearing mostly men's clothes. You're like, all right, I'm gonna fit into the preppy men's typical, you know, look.
Are you comfortable with me asking you questions like I usually would, or would you like me to not do so because we're on a podcast? It's perfectly acceptable to say no. I just want to know so I know the boundary here.
What? If I don't want to answer it, I'll just say I don't want to answer it.
Continue as you were.
What was I saying?
So I was just gonna say, like, are you comfortable? I was just gonna say, are you comfortable kind of talking about this? Because I think this is like
I
really
think it's
good example of like what we're talking about.
Right. We've been unpacking it over the past couple of weeks. There's a lot to it.
So catch us up. Catch us up.
Explain our box or your current box situation.
Yeah.
What do you mean, my current box? Like,
I don't know. Like, what have you been working through for the past couple of weeks?
I don't know. Like, I guess what triggered I was like going for like a certain, because like you have an image in your head usually. I don't know. I think most people do, but like for me, like you see a style or you see a look or you see a person and like you see certain things about them. Like, right, like what do a lot of people, like a lot of us base like our look off something we've seen or versions or pieces of what we've seen. Like a lot, like when you get your hair cut, you're like, you bring a picture and you're like, I want it to look like this, right? Like you don't just go in and be like, do whatever you want, or like, I don't know, try this, like without showing somebody something, unless you're like her.
Yeah, I go and I'm like, I don't know what I want.
Too. I'm like, yeah, me too.
Just cut my hair.
So you like
figure it out.
So for me, like as I was like moving
for
out
most
of like
people, that's
like wearing dresses to like more of like a masculine, we'll call it that, look. I would like always find myself being like, oh, I like that, this, that. But then I would get mad. Like I'd have an image in my head of what something would look like on me because it looked like that on somebody else. And then you try to replicate something like that and then it doesn't look like that. And then you're mad. And then you're like, why doesn't it look like that? So like, I feel like that's what I've been fighting for like a while. And then, so my eye is like twitching like crazy. And so, but so then what triggered the whole thing like a couple weeks ago is because like, so she's been going through this whole thing where she's like, I feel like you need to grow your hair, like just let your hair grow. Like, cause normally she was like, she would like at least keep the sides like all short how I wanted them. And then I'd get the top cut when I felt I needed to. And then all of a sudden she was like, no, I don't feel like cutting it. And I was like, well, that's fucking rude.
Let me preface this by saying I have, this might be weird for people to understand, but I'll try to explain it the best I can. I swear to God, I'm telling the truth. I'm not really into like physical form very much at all. So like I rarely know what Dee is wearing. Quite frequently, I don't know what she like. I know what her eyes look like really. Because I like her eyes. I pay attention to, and I know about her energy. So I like am very attentive to what she is, but not necessarily what she looks like. If she'll ask me about stuff, mind you, I am very attentive to my physical form. Like dressing is an art form for me, and it is like a whole thing. So I understand it for myself, but with other people, I don't really pay attention. So I have always been like, whatever you want to do, I don't care, whatever you want to do. I have like that is always my answer, is it not?
Yeah, and it's super fucking annoying too. Especially when you're trying to figure out like what you want to wear.
But also because I think, you know what I mean, like it's this process. So like whatever you want, it's not my body. I have a lot to say about what goes on over here, so I would assume you have a lot to say about your own situation. So this is not normal for me. But I
Okay.
had a vision.
So she said she got like this thought, like this vision or download or whatever to like tell me to like let my hair grow.
I had an actual
Mm.
vision
And I was like,
of you and hair on your head.
and I was like,
vision.
okay. And I was like, so I went with it like for a while, and then it just kept going and going and going. And so like periodically I would be like, so when are we gonna cut my hair? Like, what are your ideas? Like, are you gonna cut the top too? Because this shit's getting real unmanageable. Like, I couldn't wear it the way that I normally did. The sides were really starting to like stick out and get like real puffy because my hair is like super straight, so it like just sticks straight out until it's like long enough to actually like weigh itself down, or I have to like trade it. And so I'm like, this is kind of getting like fucking aggravating. And so then it finally got to a point where it did have the weight to it, so the sides were like staying down, and I was like, okay, I kind of like, I don't mind this, I kind of like it, like I'm getting used to it. Then I figured out a way to style the top that worked out like better anyway. So then like I stopped asking for a while. And then she was like, I feel like it's going to be time to do your hair soon. So I was like, ooh, I'm excited. Like, cause like ever since cutting my hair initially, like when I cut it all off, it's been like a huge part of like my like, or I've made it a huge part of my identity. Like it changed a lot of people's like reactions to me, like in public. Like I would be like I remember like not that long after like doing it, and I had a backwards hat on, and I was like in a bathroom somewhere, and somebody walked in and was like, oh so, geez, I must have like walked into the wrong bathroom. And I was like, the fuck? And then I'm not thinking about like what I like in that moment. I'm not thinking about like my appearance. Like I know I'm in the right place. And like so, but that reaction, and then I looked at her, and then I think she realized that like, oh, and she was like, oh my god, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, it's good, all good, like I get it, like clearly you're in a panic about something, so I understand, like no big deal. But like I did, like, but then I came out and I was like, this fucking person just thought it was a dude in the women's bathroom, and that's happened like quite a few times, like, and now I just kind of like laugh about it, like at work especially. I walk in and like these residents who like can't see anyway, you know, and they can just see like the big picture. They're like, sir, or what's he gonna do? And then like all like the other people who work there like feel like they have to like defend me because they're like, that's Danielle, that's a girl.
Isn't that interesting?
Right. I was thinking about that the other day. I was like, I almost want to start telling people like you don't have to. I don't really know how to like broach that topic, but I almost feel like you don't I don't feel like I need to be defended. Like I don't get offended really anymore, especially like when a 95-year-old who can't see says that. Like it doesn't really bother me, you know, like, and like even like otherwise, like I just kind of like laugh and I just introduce myself by my name, and if they realize it, they do. If they don't, they don't. Like I'm not gonna make a big deal about it. But I feel like when people try to like jump in and like defend me for it, like it almost makes it like worse than if we just like kept going.
Let it go.
You know?
Yeah.
I have a question.
Okay. God, here we go.
It's probably the same question I had, so
If you want to dress more masculine, then why does it feel offensive to you that someone would perceive you as masculine? Is that not what you are intending?
Right. I'm not saying that it doesn't really offend me anymore. Like it did at first because it caught me off guard, I think.
Right. But I'm just saying, isn't that interesting that being perceived in the way that you are intending to be perceived also offended you?
Right. Oh yeah, for sure.
Because that's like that like self judgment thing.
Right. But I think that's hard because as you like you hear things over and over and over again, and you're just like, fuck. Like how many more times is somebody gonna comment about the fact that I have a backwards fucking hat on?
And like it's like, what you want, but also you still in some way.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Still in some way.
I mean, you still in some way obviously feel offended. You know what I mean? Like you want to be perceived as masculine, but also are embarrassed that you're perceived as masculine. Or have been embarrassed.
Right, have been. I don't think that's current.
Right.
I think that's previously.
I also have another question. Is like when you, because this is the part that this is like the real conversations that we have, because I legitimately am like super curious about this, because I don't have this, like, I don't know, it doesn't work the same way in my brain. So
I have a question for you after that then, actually.
Okay.
As a follow-up.
So so what to you, like, what is appealing to you about the masculine way
Oh my
of
God.
dressing?
I don't know.
And what, because
well, I mean,
I'll
I
leave
do
it
know.
at that. What is appealing to you about the masculine way of dressing?
Well, I don't, like, I've never felt comfortable in a dress because I feel like I can't, like, because I feel like when you wear, like, a dress, you have to, like, sit a certain way and, like, like all these uncomfortable things that, like, I don't like doing. Like, I don't like particularly sitting with my legs crossed or, like, you know, or, like, I don't know. Like, I pulled off a high heel very well, but, like, I'm not really comfortable in it. I'd rather have, like, a pair of, like, boots or sneakers on. But I think a lot of it is just like the comfort. Like, I like a more relaxed fit on my body versus like a skin tight shirt. Particularly like shirts, I think, is really more. Jeans I've waxed and wavered, like waxed and waned over.
But they have women's boots and women's. Well, I mean, you live with a person in a wide leg pant. Flowy pants are my
right. But
thing.
remember the other day I talked about like the difference between even like the same cut, like a skinny men's jean versus a skinny women's jean. Like the waist is usually cut different. There's like more curve to a women. Like I like more of a like a straighter fit. I don't know. It's just what I feel comfortable in. Although I've realized, so like we did this whole thing where we cleaned out our closets, or like we went through our closets, and then we were gonna like try to sell all this stuff, and then Ashley was like, "Why the fuck are you trying to like just fucking get rid of it? Like it served you a purpose at some point in your life. Like just donate it. Like how much money are you really gonna make? Not that much for how much time you're gonna spend, and let somebody else get a purpose out of it. You know, it's like more of an energetic exchange versus like you know, the monetary, whatever you're trying to get out of it." And so I was like, okay. At first I was like, and then I was like, you know what? Let's just fucking get rid of them. Like it's like these, like I've had clothes in my closet for 2 years that I have not worn, that I knew I was not going to wear. It's not like I was debating back and forth. I was like, there is no fucking way I'm going to wear that entire fucking 2-foot long section of dresses that are there. Mind you, it is a bomb selection of clothing, but like I'm not going to wear it anymore. That is like not what I see as like how I'm going to present myself, at least at this moment in time. And so they don't serve my purpose anymore. So, but for 2 years they sat in my closet without any room to actually put any new clothes because I wouldn't get rid of them. So I'm like cramming in new clothes when I could just fucking throw them all, get rid of them and actually have room. And so she's like, why don't you just fucking get rid of them? So we did. And I had a lot of mixed emotions around it. Like, it's still, like, packing them up and getting them out of my closet felt, like, weird at times. Like, because I started to, like, think back of, like, times when I remembered I wore certain things. And I was like, that's interesting. And then... But then I was also like, it feels good. Like I could feel like almost like the energetic, like heaviness of them, like also like leaving my body, you know, my body.
Answer Alex's question. Did you like those dresses when you bought it, or did you feel like you had to buy them?
I think a lot of them, so the only time like I ever really wore dresses was for like weddings or like when I traveled. So like one of my best friends is from Lebanon, and like I spent 3 months over there, or 3 weeks over there after undergrad. Like we went over there and were there for a few weeks, but like before I went there, I spent like a lot of money on expanding my wardrobe to bring there, because like their thought on like style and how you present yourself is very like it's a top priority. Like it's a status symbol. Like you don't leave your house in sweatpants. Like you are dressed up in makeup every time you leave the house. And so even that at times was a stretch for me. Like granted, I could wear like jeans and like a nice shirt and a pair of heels and like that was fine. Like it didn't always have to be a dress, but it was a very like higher end of style for me than I had been really used to for the most part. So a lot of that stuff I bought like because of stuff like that, or like if I had a wedding to go to, I would, you know, buy a dress or have like dresses, but that would really be the only time that I would wear them. And I liked them because I mean I picked them out, but I didn't always feel super comfortable in them and wearing them. And I always found myself like when I would like I was telling Mia before, like I like when my brother and I, like when we lived together, like we would always like pick each other's clothes out. Like cuz he has like a very high, like he like loves like fashion and like how he dresses himself and stuff. And but I would always find myself loving picking out for some reason like men's clothing. Like the simplicity, I think, of like sometimes like a shirt, like dress pants and a shirt and a tie. Like it's simple, yet you can do so much with it and like with different variations of it. And like that always seemed way more appealing to me than like going and finding a dress. And so then when I was like was like, yeah, I would rather just buy like men's clothing.
But
and
isn't
she
that
was
also just like what you're exposed to? Because like, what if your mom was a Wall Street banker?
Yeah.
Like you'd probably see bitches in suits all the time.
right. I don't know.
And that would
Which
probably
would then...
like be, because it's almost like it's a feeling of nostalgia, but then also like what you're brought up around, right? Like do you get a sense of kind of like nostalgia when like you're picking out men's clothes for yourself? Like you're picking out these outfits? Like does it kind of feel like you're back
like I've been talking about
that, like with your brother kind of thing?
Yeah, maybe like a little bit. I don't know. Or I don't know if it's always just one of those things that like, because I always felt like I wanted to like what also when I would see those, I would be like, man, I want to like, I feel like it just looks like sharp, like in like a fucking like suit. And like, I want a fucking suit. But like, I don't necessarily want like a shortcut, like women's like cut suit. Like I want more of like a like a more masculine looking suit, you know, like, or I want something that's made that fits my body the way it should fit for it to look, you know, appropriate.
I think that's
which I
key
found
right there.
which I found a
That-
place
yeah,
that does that they like they make custom suits based on your body type to look how you want it to look.
Because
because I know like that's one of the things that you find like with men's clothing, like as a female, like I mean it also depends on your body type too. Like you can be a woman who like essentially has like no boobs and a very like masculine slim look,
I was
and you
just
can
gonna
fit
say, so
very
like
easily.
Erin, yeah. So like Erin's very slim build, very 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 slim build. She's very like long, lean, and very slim build. So she fits. She can literally go into any store in the world and go look at men's clothes and can fit in literally anything that she wants to because she has that body. But like somebody like me, I'm like this. Like that's not going to happen. Like the cut on men's clothes isn't going to fit me the same way that it would like her or anybody else. But if you have women's clothing that is with masculine design, it's just cut to fit a woman's body instead, but still gives you the same air of like masculinity. Like, is that similar for you, or is it like, no, it has to be like men's clothing?
I don't think it has to be. Like, I think because there are more, like, if you look like online, there are more, and like obviously it depends where you live. Like, if you're in bigger cities, you're gonna find designers in stores that are gonna like there's a lot of like brands now that make women's clothing that look more masculine, but they're meant to fit like a woman's body. Because like that's woman's what body, I've run into is like I have to find like I have found certain brands of like men's clothing that fit me better than others, that like give me the look I want but also fit and don't like for a button up like doesn't like pull like where your boobs are, because like I would get mad about that. Like I would say I was like, oh, this shirt doesn't fucking fit me because like my boobs. And she'd be like, well, what are you gonna do about that? I'm like, well, nothing clearly, but like it's annoying. So like then like so that's what
Yeah.
you it's like then you cycle through that. It's like then that's the psychological aspect of it too, where you're like
Right,
frustrated that like you want to like you have
Right.
this image in your head, but that you can't like
which is why
replicate it.
I feel like this is a meaning attachment situation in which you are attaching a meaning to what it is to be masculine. So when you look at someone, when you look at a man in men's clothes, there's an energy or a vibe or a feeling, a something that is appealing to you. It is not actually the clothes specifically. But you think that someone who looks like that is a certain way. And that's what's appealing to you. And then when it gets on your own body and it doesn't look exactly like it did on their body, which is only possible on their body because they're the only one of them ever and they have Photoshop, then you're like, well, I don't look that way. So now it's not going to fucking work.
Right.
Because now I'm not a fucking masculine badass. But I encourage you to dive deeper still because I want to know what it is about masculinity that is appealing to you.
Yeah.
Because I know what it is about masculinity that's appealing to me.
I think it's shifted though too. Like the more I think like so like now that you bring that up, like I think like I originally contributed or attributed a lot of that to like I think the power that like we are, it's kind of like ingrained in us that men hold more power, I think, and like especially like in corporate or in like a lot of certain like places that we're exposed to.
I mean,
like
there's also a
like,
reason why it's called a power suit.
Right.
I mean, that is, I mean, like, yeah,
right.
agreeing with you. Like, that is
so like a masculine look, I think it like for a very long time was associated with like power or like I don't know, like strength. But then I also feel like it's really interesting because like of course naturally as I decided to change my like outward appearance to a more quote unquote masculine look, I then started to jump into a world surrounding myself with fucking women who are claiming this like power, who are trying to like create this world of like female leadership.
Yep.
So like naturally when I got like when we started getting more and like working with Victoria was a very comfortable situation for me though, because Hayden and I, interestingly enough, so like they got together right around the same time we got together, and you saw and it was like the craziest shit because Hayden, every time like he made a shift in certain things, I did the same thing. Like I said to her, like, I want to cut my hair. And she's like, okay, like, let's do it. And so, but like, by the time I could get in, like, with the person who was going to cut my hair, who I trusted to do this for me, because that was another big thing, is like having somebody to trust to like do this huge thing. And like, naturally it was a family member. So like, I felt more comfortable with that. But, so there was like a couple month like waiting period from the time I made the decision to when I could do it. And then like a month before, like I got my hair cut, Hayden cut his hair. And I was like, oh, fuck, okay, this is interesting. And then, like, it was a very similar haircut. And then, like, he made the jump to cut his hair even shorter. I made the jump to cut my hair even shorter. So it was like, but, like, so where I'm getting at is, like, going into that world of, like, this feminine leadership and coaching, first experience with, like, Victoria was more comfortable for me because I was like, I don't feel judged as being, like, appearing as a more masculine female in this world of, like, female leadership, because she is also in a relationship with somebody who is kind of doing the same thing and isn't going to have that like judgment. Mind you, when I like transitioned more into the world with like Kiara and like we went to that first like thing in September when we went to Austin, I was like I almost like freaked out because I'm like, I don't belong here. Like I do not belong in a room of like basically women who look like women. And like not just like women who are wearing jeans and a t-shirt, like women who are in crop tops and like very feminine, like embracing their femininity and like showing it off and not being ashamed of it. And here I am walking in a like a button-up t-shirt and a fucking pair of men's shorts. you know? And it's like, I'm like, I don't know if I really belong here. And like now I've gotten to the point, like when we went to Sedona, I was like, yeah, I fucking belong here. And like it was fine, and I didn't necessarily feel that weirdness about it. But it's also like super interesting that like that all happened at the same time. So now I feel like I don't necessarily associate like the masculine or men's look with power per se, because now I've surrounded myself with a world of women who are like powerful as fuck, you know, on multiple levels. So what was really interesting about the clothes thing is like I went through all these clothes that I knew I already did not feel like I associated with anymore or that served me a purpose. But then I also found like few clothes that I just bought like a couple years ago as I was buying men's clothes. I was like, why the fuck would I buy a sweater vest? I am never going to wear this. And like, so I've already realized that like my idea around how I want to appear has like shifted even more, but like I still don't really know where I'll land. But the hair thing has become a very like big thing now as my hair gets longer. Like I got mad a couple weeks ago when we brought it up, because I brought it up again and said like, okay, my hair, like when are we going to actually address my hair? Because like at what point is it just going to be back to the length that it was before I cut it? And so that started a whole thing of her being like, why does it matter? Can you not have long hair? Can you not have long hair and also wear like more masculine men's clothing?
Context for this statement.
Oh,
I said, I am not cutting your hair today. And she came at me with the fire of 1,000 motherfucking suns and said, well, it's about to be as long as it was. I don't want my hair long again. I don't want it to be feminine again. And it came out like lightning and with venom and rage. And I said, oh, today is not the day to cut the hair, but we have a whole conversation coming up.
A whole thing going
Let's
on. Yep.
Go.
Yep.
Let's chat about that. Where the fuck did that come from?
Yeah, I don't know.
Right.
So
But
we'll see.
because there's got to have a reaction, a visceral reaction like that to something because of the gender associated with it.
Yep.
Has to be something, right? It has to be, this meaning has to be.
Yeah, it's something with, the meaning attached to every piece of it. Whereas, like, it's just hair. It grows back. You can cut it again. So what is it about the appearance of it?
Those,
there's
like,
dudes with long hair that
sexy-ass
rock it. My dad, when my mom met him, they were at, like, the community college. They were going to their school for nursing. My dad had his head flipped over and was, like, combing out his hair. And the first thought my mom said was, you know, that's a really pretty girl with really beautiful long hair. Oh my God, that hair is gorgeous. He flips his head over and he's got, like, you know, a beard. And she's like, whoa, shit. Oh my God. But still was like, holy shit. Like, that man has the most gorgeous hair I've ever seen. But it's like, dudes, and especially now, there are so many dudes that are just all over the place rocking the long hair. They've got dreads. They've got man buns. They've got all sorts of stuff. And that doesn't, like, you don't have to have short hair to be a man or be perceived in a masculine manner.
Right.
You can have long hair too. So what is it, like, it's interesting because what is it specifically for you that's about that piece of it, you know, like the way that you dress, the way that you present.
Right. And I think too, like, I don't know, I think like for me, like the hair thing is like if I had hair that looked like it used to when I was before I like wanted to like have this whole like masculine like outward appearance. So like if I had long hair but like also wanted to wear like a suit, then like I don't know. I think it's like a lot of it's just like the outside perception, you know? Because here's the thing. Like the thought process like that you can't change your mind type of thing. So like like cuz it's like, "Oh, well you cut your hair, so like oh, now you're going to grow it back." Like I mean, people do that shit like literally all the fucking time. But like
all the time.
And there's people who wear dresses one day, like men who wear dresses and then wear a suit, you know, like it's but like I think it's just that like
men that are in power suits have long ass hair and their nails are painted. Like it doesn't make them any less than.
Right.
Just the same as women. I mean, like.
Right. So I think for me, it's like just, I don't know, like I think it's like, I feel like then there's some attachment to like an old identity that you like feel like you don't identify with anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But if you like start to have parts of you that like sort of represent that, and then other parts of you that don't, then it's like, what identity are you? But like, also it doesn't actually matter.
I think
so.
when-
Like, but it's just like coming to like my own terms with it. Because like, if you wanted to do something, I would be like, do whatever the fuck you want.
But I think,
But like for yourself, it's totally different,
Right.
naturally.
and I think that when you start looking for that information from inside of your own body instead of external sources,
Instead of outsourcing it.
like I really, really care about how I dress myself. It is like a passion of mine. But I don't think like, is this masculine or feminine enough for me?
Mhm.
Or-
I do
or-
not have a problem showing a lot of skin, but I don't do it like, I don't, you know what I mean? I don't know, but I also wear like big men's flannels and other, you know what I mean? I wear clothes from all different genders, but it's still
Yep.
just like how I want to express myself. It's not because it's a man's shirt.
And I was also just going to say, too, so it's how you want to express yourself, but you don't put clothes on or look at your clothes and think, okay, I'm going to put this outfit together, put it on, and then think to yourself, oh, what are other people going to think when they see me in this? Like, the way that you dress yourself is for yourself, because you've removed the attachment to meaning in societal context, and also for, just yourself. Like, the meaning of the clothes is neutral for you now. Where it's
Right.
like, I just like the way that looks. And maybe it's like, oh, that doesn't go together. But it's like, well, I like the way that looks. And I like how those two pieces clash together. Or, this complements it or whatever. But it's like, well, it doesn't go together. Okay, well, who cares? It doesn't
Right.
matter.
Mhm.
It matters what I think about it. It matters how I feel.
Right. Like, that's something you've finally been starting to do. Remember, it used to give you such agita when I would put random
Like weird
patterns
and
together?
stuff. Yeah.
But
I'd be
now
like,
you do it for yourself.
That doesn't
that
work.
is that a plaid and a floral? What is happening? My eyes.
What is that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think too, like, I don't know. I just think too, like, what was interesting also was like when we were going back through stuff, your clothes, right?
Mhm.
Like, there was like some like skinny like dress pant kind of situations with like bold like plaid patterns and stuff, which is like 100% stuff that you've been looking at.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't necessarily fit your body shape now.
I mean, they just don't. Yeah.
But that was when you were dressing in what you considered a feminine way, and
Right.
you're looking for the same thing in a different size now, and because dudes, because it's you've also seen men wear it, and the male thing it's appealing to you when it's on a man, but not when it's on a woman,
Right.
which I think is like instead of thinking about it that way, like, I want to make sure that I'm buying things to fit this.
Mm-hmm.
You just buy whatever the fuck you like.
Right.
Yeah, because you like
and you had like,
and that's it.
I don't remember if we like saw it somewhere, but like, or you suggested it, like when you get dressed, like instead of like looking in a mirror of like how you look, like you just get dressed and like just decide how you feel and what you're wearing versus, because like how many times you like, I know that like I'll put something on and I'll be like, oh damn, this looks good, like all right, and then you look at yourself in a mirror and you're like, oh okay, that is nope. Just kidding. And like I do that all the time. Like I'll put a shirt on, I like it, and then like I look in the mirror and I'm like, no, I don't like how that like falls on me or looks like, even if it feels okay, and I'll take it off and I'll put something else on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But like, because you create that vision in your head, and then when you can't,
exactly, and if it doesn't fit that, then it's like, oh my god, it happens to me all the time.